Guys, today we're got one of our bonus interview podcasts today. We're actually going to videotape this one. I got my buddy Tom coming in. But what's really cool is Tom's a real estate dude, someone I've known for a long time, and we kind of reconnected after about 8 to 10 years. I want to do some things, some future projects, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I fucking need a real estate guy, right? Everyone needs every guy in every field and stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm calling Tom up, and Tom and I sat down and had a lunch and just talked about stuff. And then just talking about what Tom's been up to and stuff and what's going on, I said, you know what, let's get that fucker on the podcast. And he just fits into the Silverback, and you know, he's that age group and he's in that stage of life and he's overcome some stuff. And I think it's going to be pretty cool to hear. And he's interested as well as getting into some podcasting and that kind of stuff. So I said, you know what, best way to learn about podcasting, do a fucking podcast. Rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, welcome to the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Today, bonus interview time with my friend Tom Stathopoulos.
Nice.
Did I say it right?
Yeah,
That's
you did
awesome.
actually. You did
That's
good.
awesome.
You did good.
Tom told me how to spell it, and then I wrote it phonetically, and it doesn't look anything the way it's spelled and stuff. So Stathopoulos, that's Greek.
You got
right?
it. You
cool.
got
I
it,
usually
yeah.
have a joke saying it's Irish, but today I just thought I'd change it up
I've told
a
a few people it's a long Irish name, and actually one actually ever believed it. So.
Oh yeah, that's awesome,
yeah.
man. You sold him some expensive shit after that. Tom's a real estate guy. He's also a dad and a husband. And I've known Tom for over 10 years now.
Yeah, it'd be about that.
We worked on a few things early on when I had the multiple locations going and stuff. Maybe we'll tell the bus story. We'll see what happens with that. That's always a great story.
Yeah.
But we reconnected. So with Hostile Gear, as you guys know, and Hostile, we're growing, and I've always got plans, and I always want to do things. And I sat there and I realized that for some of the things that I want to work on, I don't have a real estate guy. I've got a lawyer, I've got an accountant, I've got all these guys. I don't have a real estate guy. So when I sat there, and we did an episode,
Well, you know, in all
ago.
fairness, too, we did stay in touch through social media all
Yeah,
these years, too,
absolutely.
right? So we did follow each other and
For sure.
occasionally communicate. I mean...
well, and that's the power of social media,
Yeah.
right? Is that it allows you that when you need to go back to something, you're like, oh, that's the guy I'm going to talk to, or that's
so
the girl.
I would see you regularly. I watched your progress over the years, changing from one as you started the new brand, and it was always great to see, you know, someone that you knew and dealt with, considered a friend, you know, actually, you know, changing something and making progress. So, I mean, I followed you through that, and, you know, you've also been following me, so it was good that we stayed in touch with that.
And that's the wonder about social media, and Tom's being polite. You know, he saw me shit the bed with my last business venture, and then he saw me come up from the ashes and stuff like that, so definitely he noticed that, which is great. And, you know, that's just the way things go. No one's ever a complete success the first time. We just get better, hopefully, along the way and learn a little bit. So what I did is I reached out to Tom and said, hey, Tom, listen, there's a couple of projects I'm working on, and I'd like to sit down and have lunch with you, and let's just shoot the shit, get reacquainted on a more personal level again, see where you're at, see where I'm at, and then just have some conversation with us. So it was really cool. And one of the things that I like, because I have been following you, is that I also noticed that you've been going through a bit of a reboot yourself. Yeah. Right? And
I did.
You know, so from a physical point. So, you know, from this point, Tom, just tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you're into, and then we'll get into the reboot and some other stuff down the line.
Well, you know what? Like I said, I mean, I'm a married man. You know, I got a wife, got 2 young kids at home. You know, they're teenagers. My daughter's turning 14 in about a week. Right. So the 31st of May. So... you know, I don't think any dad is ever prepared to deal with a teenage daughter, so that's been a lot of interesting challenges. The little guy, I call him my meathead, you know, but you know, at the end of the day, they're both good kids. They test you, they keep you busy. Sure. I'm glad that they keep me busy. You know, I've been with my wife 17 years this June. Went into real estate probably about 8 months just before my daughter was born. So I'm coming on
15 years,
just almost to 15 years in the business. And, you know, that's when I met you, was early on when I was doing strictly commercial real estate.
Yeah, on Bank Street there.
And back in 2008, I gotten really sick. I had just left the first brokers I was working at, and I'd been there for 4.5, 5 years. And I had about a week off between the two different brokerages. I had just picked up a Club Link golf membership at the time. So I was actually kind of excited and looking forward to that 1 week off. I was going to actually enjoy going out and using the golf club and just enjoying the membership. And I was supposed to start at the next brokerage on September 2nd.
Okay.
So September 1st was the Labor Day weekend. The day ended. I'm getting ready for the next day now. My wife put the kids to bed. They were young. And when she came downstairs, I was sitting on the chair. She was about to, crash on the couch so we could watch some TV together. And all of a sudden, I started feeling like really strong, bad pains in my chest, and my arms were feeling numb. And honestly, I thought I was having a massive heart attack at the age of 37.
Okay.
So I right away I told her, I said, call an ambulance. I said, I can't breathe. It felt like
you knew something was up.
I knew something was up. I thought that I felt like there was a guy the size of you sitting on my chest. Like I just couldn't breathe.
Big.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Equally uncomfortable.
Equally uncomfortable. You got it, right? So she called the ambulance. What ended up happening was it turned out later on, long story short, I won't get into the whole thing at the hospital, but long story short, it turned out that I had perforation in my intestine. And this had happened probably about a month prior. So for about a month, I'd been walking around with bile in my abdomen, slowly being absorbed in my bloodstream. And by this point, I was extremely septic. The next
so basically, you're poisoning yourself.
I'm poisoning myself.
Yeah,
I'm done at this point.
Yeah.
Then they next day they got me in to do some ultrasounds. Wanted to find out where the bile was where the fluid in my abdomen was coming from. And doctor made the decision, take him straight to straight to surgery so that they can open me up and explore. My lungs collapsed at that point, and they had to stabilize me a day. Did the surgery the next day. They induced me into a coma to heal afterwards, and after that, that's where life kind of took its turn.
So basically, your whole body was shutting down.
Everything was shutting down. Everything was shutting down.
Your body was just poisoned.
Exactly.
So every organ was starting to fucking shut down.
One after the other. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
So are you conscious at this point? Like, are you aware of what's happening? Or did they have you all?
I remember a few things the night when they took me into the hospital.
Right.
I remember the morning where they took me in for the ultrasound and then the CT scan, but just very vague images of things.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I got to give it to doctors. These guys, it's amazing the things they do, right? They actually induce you into coma. For my case, in a lot of cases, they do that because it puts your body at the proper place where it's supposed to be so that you can actually heal, right? You're not tiring yourself out, right? And I guess one thing people don't realize that I learned, when you're recovering from a surgery or an injury, sometimes you feel like super exhausted, right? Mm-hmm. And I came to discover that, your body works really hard to actually heal itself from any injuries or a surgery, and that really drains it out of you. You don't realize what your body's doing.
It becomes a priority.
It becomes a priority.
It's trying to stay alive, right? So at the end of the day, we're these meat bags with hair or no hair or whatever, and we worry about all these other things. But our body is really meant to do a few things, and one is to keep us alive.
Yep.
So that we can procreate and further the species.
Yeah.
That's really what it's all about. Right. Yeah. And, when it comes down to the kind of thing, all that shit and that kind of trauma, it takes over.
That's right.
Right. It's why they need you to rest and recover. And that's why going into surgeries and stuff like this, if the healthier you are, the fitter you are,
the easier to be to come out of it.
Well, your body's better prepared because like said, right? A tremendous amount of physical stress.
Yeah.
Your body's under, imagine, the biggest workout you've ever done times 100 every day, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Your body, because this was so serious, that's what it was going through.
That's
really,
right.
Right? Amazing.
That's
Amazing.
Right. Yeah.
So what happens? You just wake up in a hospital room?
So about 8 days after the surgery, I woke up. At this point here, you have really no clue where you are. And it's funny. Everybody, just kind of figured that I was kind of sleeping. When they walked into my room, everybody says, "Oh, you were just out like a light. You were sleeping. No response, no nothing." But to me, those 8 days, they seem like a fast-forwarded nightmare because the hallucinations that I had going on, my mind was going nonstop for 8 days. Like my brain was awake. And I remember some like crazy shit or whatever. Like, I mean, you know, I tell my friends the stories. We die laughing at it. I mean, one friend made a joke. He goes, Stath, the problem is, you probably never had enough hallucinogenic drug experience growing up or whatever. He goes, I would have rode that out a completely different way. I'm like, well, you know what? 8 days was enough. So it was pretty wild. You know, so I wake up and, you know, I've got a tube in my lungs, so I can't talk. I look at my hands, and my hands, honest to God, my fingertips were swollen to about 5 times the size that they were just because of all the fluids they had on there.
Right.
It's like everything is moving in slow motion. It was crazy. So when I came out of it, it took a couple of days. Like, you know, I mean, the second night that I was in the hospital, I thought that there was a rave going on in my room.
This is during the coma?
No, this was after I woke up and then moved.
Coming out of things.
Yeah, I came out of it. They took me out of ICU. They put me in a regular room. I even thought like there was a rave going on in my room, and there was a bunch of people dressed like Anheim's having an orgy under my bed. The nurses were coming into the room, you know, like, I mean, God bless these nurses. I would say some of the best nurses that anybody's ever had. These girls were amazing, and they would get a kick out of it because they see me so much over the next 4 years. And I would tell them the stories about, you know, how Katrina came in and she was dressed like, you know, like some you know, party girl going to a rave, like, you know, a late night rave. And when I asked her, you too, she said, she goes, it's okay, I'm on my break.
That's crazy.
So, you know, they get a kick out of that stuff.
I bet you they fuck with you, though. I think they purposely dress up like that when you're in and out just to fuck with you.
Know,
and we got another one. Let's wear the outfits and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's go mess with this one here.
And when you're out, you're like, oh, that's crazy. How
that's
did that
crazy.
happen, man?
Oh, man, those drugs are really strong. Yeah, you never know,
wild,
right?
Man.
So
a couple of days still dealing with crazy shit and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was about 2-3 days, and then that all passed, and, you know, eventually made my way out of the hospital. And, you know, it was really weird going home at that point. I mean, I went home about 65 pounds lighter than what I went in 2 weeks prior. Wow. And my little guy was 1.5. So I walk in the door, and at that time it was when there was a real outbreak of that one virus or whatever that was, you know, really affecting people in the hospital.
Right.
So, you know, my wife and I had agreed, keep the kids at home. I'll just talk to them by the phone because I didn't want them coming to the hospital that. So the little guy had not had the opportunity to see me at all over the 2 weeks. When I walked in, you know, 65 pounds lighter, he recognized the voice, but it scared the crap out of him.
Imagine.
So he jumped behind his grandmother, you know, to hide because he's like, who's this guy that sounds like my dad, you know?
Which would make it probably more confusing.
It was insane, right? Wow. So, so then the next couple of months I had an ostomy. They had to let the intestine heal. So like they put a bag on the side of me, an ileostomy. And, you know, I'd have the nurse come to the house on a regular basis. So the healing took a while. I mean, for about 3 months, I would walk, you know, probably from my couch to the front door and back on the main floor. And that was it. I needed a 2-hour nap. Wow. So that's what it took. It took a while, right? So in time, you know, I was able to start walking a little bit further. My dad would also take me out for a drive and get out of the house. Get some fresh air. And, you know, it was during that time, and work is not an option, right? And, you know, I guess the one big lesson I learned throughout that whole time, right? We get stupid. We get chasing our dream. We get, working our ass off, you know, making money, and, you know, we're doing it all for our family. It's not because,
but we're also spending that money. We're committing
to things. We're doing stuff for our family, right? But, you know, the funny thing is, and I've heard this being said before, and there's a lot of truth to that, right? When I thought I was on my deathbed, I never once said, I wish I'd done one more deal. I never once worried about a client, you know, saying, you know, I got to take care of this tomorrow.
What were the things that you started thinking about you wish you'd done more of?
The first night when I thought I was checking out, I was in the first night that they took me in, I didn't think I was going to see tomorrow. Okay. I really believed I wasn't going to see tomorrow. First thing I needed to do, I told the nurse, I said, you got to call my wife. You got to get her in here right now. I needed to talk to her.
Cool.
That was the first thing I worried about. I needed to tell her, there were some things I wanted to tell my kids, what I wanted them to remember me for. Wow. You know, there was things I needed her to know, and that was all I cared about. At that particular moment, I didn't care about nothing else. I didn't care if I saw one other person. I just needed to see her.
Crazy,
you know. The kids were too little. I was afraid of scaring them.
Yeah.
It was late at night, but I needed her to get a message to them.
Yeah.
And that was what I said. And
your world became very small at that
real
point.
quick. Like you really see what matters in your life, right?
That's awesome, man.
So, I mean, during that time, my daughter started school. The nurse walked into my room the one morning, and she saw me crying, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, my daughter's getting on the bus for the first time today. I'm supposed to be there. Yeah. And she's like, "That's okay." She goes, "You're going to see her every other day after."
Yeah.
So, there was a comfort in that.
Yeah.
But it was that first day, and I remember her. She was like 4, she started junior kindergarten, and I called her at the end of the day, and kids are amazing too. She was so forgiving. I said, honey, I'm so sorry. She goes, "That's okay, Baba." She goes, "I just want you to get better." She goes, You'll see me get on the bus again. I'll be really good at it by the time you get out of the hospital."
Kids, eh?
You know what I mean? So
little bastards.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And okay, eventually everything went well. I got out. Recovery started going, and then I started trying to focus to get back to work. Well, you get working, and in a business like mine, we're independent contractors. We're commission, 100% commission based, right? So our business is all about momentum, right? Once you get the momentum rolling, it's just you keep hitting it. You keep striking for it, you keep chasing it, right?
And when you lose that momentum,
it's so hard to get it built up again. So I would get momentum going, I'd get rolling, I'd start getting some positive activity happening, and then all of a sudden, I'd have a complication. With the ostomy or a hernia that had developed in the main incision. So you crash, right? Back in you go. By February, so September, this happened September, by February, I was able to go get the second surgery done to reverse the ostomy.
Okay.
And, then you're all worried that my mind is always constantly turning at that point, because they also told me that there is a risk or a possibility that I may require a permanent ostomy at this point.
Right.
So, it's kind of funny, right? We grow up all our lives, going to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden here you are at the age of 37, you've got an ostomy and you can't take a shit anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's amazing the stupid stuff in life that we actually take for granted. That's like so much more important, right?
Yeah. Not to mention how you feel about your body all of a sudden.
It's crazy.
Right? So
it's
you
crazy.
sit there and you realize that, hey, you're not whole anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of thing. So I can imagine, it's hard.
It is.
It's hard.
It is, because, life is, there's things you can't do the same. So you have to adjust, right? And then by the time you get to the surgery, like, you're pretty adjusted. You're used to living with it, used to dealing with it. But at the same time, you're really happy to go. So when I found out that it was going, it was the best. I woke up, it was gone.
All right.
That was a great feeling.
Obviously, the big event was huge and traumatic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The subsequent surgeries, how did you find going into? Were you more confident because, hey, I've been through something really fucking big. This is more of a walk in the park.
Surgeries.
Did you find your confidence and
there
your
was
bravery?
no fear. There was no fear of surgeries.
Okay, cool.
That was a lot to do with what I went through the first one.
Yeah.
That was also a lot to do with the doctors and the nurses that I had. Once you have confidence in them and you've been through it, it's like, Tom, we need to do this. Okay, great, let's get it done. It was not an issue.
When we go through big challenges, right, and we come through it, right, we always come through it. And I think the most important part about having big challenges, and you don't want to wish anything like this on anyone. However, you do want people to be challenged. You realize that it's our challenges that make us stronger, that make us tougher. Our scars, that make us, beautiful. I've said that before in one of our podcasts and stuff. And it's coming through these things that give you perspective, give you something to compare against, right? And make you realize that if I can go through all this, well, fuck, this isn't a big deal. You know what I mean?
A great example is we all meet a lot of people in life, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some people when somebody says, I was talking to this guy yesterday, and you'd be like, oh, fuck, I know this guy. Yeah. That guy is a solid guy. He's an awesome guy, right? Yeah. Or on the other hand, they might say, I was talking to this guy, like, okay, this guy's a real asshole.
This guy's a
like,
douche.
What? Stay away from him or whatever the case might be. Well, I've always believed life requires a certain level of balance, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't deal with shit in your life, if you don't have bad things in your life forever, you got nothing to gauge that off of and actually appreciate the good stuff you have.
Absolutely.
And when you can't appreciate the good stuff you have, what do we end up doing? We take it for granted. And when you take it for granted, it kind of becomes a vicious little spiral that you end up down the road 15 years later, 10 years later, maybe even 5 years later, and you realize just how much maybe you've ostracized yourself from like people or things in your life that are important. You become that douchebag. Yeah. So to me, I've always felt like, for me, you know what? It was something that gave me great check and balance in my life. I mean, before that happened, I was, I was only focused on work. That's all I thought I was supposed to do. Just go, go, go. I saw my wife and kids at 7 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning before I left for work. And that was all I saw of them between 7 and 8. They were all in bed by the time I got home.
Yeah, for sure.
So
what's changed now? So we'll come back to some of this other stuff now, but there was Tom before. Yeah. Right. The incident. Workaholic, driving it all the time. It's all about the deal, the zeros. This happens. You're still in real estate. Yeah. But what's the difference now? Like, how do you, what kind of drive do you have now? And what's the balance like?
You know what? The balance, I think the way it's changed is I try to pay more attention or do more things with my kids. Okay. Doesn't always happen. Right. At the end of the day, life, reality, you've got responsibilities, and to meet them, sometimes you're going to miss a couple of things. Yeah. But there comes times that, when I make the decision to do something, I'll actually shut off the phone. And, like Mother's Day, we went out this Saturday. We couldn't get reservations on Sunday. Right. So
that's because Tom waited to the last fucking minute. That's why.
Well, that could be a little true. I'm not sure. Whatever. In my defense, I was busy working.
Right. No, I'm just fucking with you. Yeah. But sure. I find one thing I do find. How old are you now, Tom?
I'm 47,
and I'm 50. And Monday is here. We got all kinds of shit to do, and fucking a blink of an eye, it's Saturday. Yeah. And I find that it just happens faster and faster. And the more stuff we're doing, I find that's even faster. So going back, so let's say before the incident, would you say it was like 90-10? You were 90% fucking getting shit done, and 10% is what you kind of had left over for the personal stuff? What would you think that ratio is? Was then, and what is it now? And again, I just want people to give an idea.
I think what was really bad about it before is it was more about me. Mm-hmm. More about me.
So even when you were home, you weren't home?
Even when I was home, I wasn't home. And if I was home, it was like present. I was coming in to just kind of like drop something off and head back out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, the kids were little too, I felt like they got in my way.
I don't understand what they're fucking saying right now.
Yeah, because, it's like, okay, exactly. Tammy, you deal with them. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're home on mat leave. This is your job. I was a bit of a douche that way, right?
Well, I think we fall into roles, right?
We fall into those roles, Sure. So, like I said, it was a real eye opener, right? And the other thing that I learned too, right? I've had friends who've gone through a lot of things, and when they'll go through them, right? You run into your friend who's having a bad day or whatever, and you say hey to him, and all of a sudden, he bites your head off or he barks at you or tells you where to go, and it's like, okay, what did that accomplish, right? Yeah. And I know when I was working downtown at that time, went out with my manager for lunch, and he actually said, "How you doing?" And he says, "Well, I was talking to my wife about you last night," and he goes, I told her how blown away I was, because he goes, "You come into the building every morning, you're always good morning to everybody." He goes, like, nobody really knows what you've been through.
You're personable.
He goes, you're personable that way, and he goes, nobody really knows what you've been through. He goes, and you seem to have such a good attitude with all the shit just that kind of landed on you.
This is after the incident.
This was after. Now this is like, how
long did it take you from incident to, hey, I'm back at work, even in a limited capacity?
Limited capacity, probably 4 to 5 months, 5 months maybe, because and then soon after that I went in for the second surgery. Right. So then again, that knocked me out another 2 months. So you know what? It was probably almost a good 8 months, 9 months before I actually.
Were you jonesing though to get back to work? Were you missing it? Like, was there part of it that you missed?
At that point, I had tried a little bit, but with everything during the major recovery, no, I didn't miss it.
What was it like financially? Was it tough? Were you fucking selling off the garden tools? Like, what is it? How did you, without getting into crazy details, what were some of the things you had to change? Because that scares the fuck out of a lot of people, right? Because you get used to a level of living, and if all of a sudden shit happens, and you know what? Nobody's got fucking 6 months of cash reserves like they're supposed to, right?
That's right.
And we all fucking know it, but no one does for this very fucking reason.
You know, surprisingly enough, we actually did.
Good for you.
We actually did. The funny thing is that, you know what? I didn't expect it to last 4 years. Right? It really took it out of my business for 4 years because, you know, once they had the bag removed, the ostomy removed, I started having a lot of complications with hernias. Okay. And so I did another surgery. So about another 8 months later, I did another surgery in November to seal up 2 major hernias. So that was fine.
What was downtime like for those kind of things? So the big one was like 4 months.
Quick. That was pretty quick.
The second one was a couple months.
That's right.
Going in for these.
The hernia recovery was probably about a month. It wasn't that bad, right? But they were major hernias, right? The real problems and complications started after that. So it was the next 2 years because in the first 2 years I had basically 3 major hospital stays. And then later on when I had after the third surgery, I started developing. I ended up having like about 16 hernias all over my abdomen.
Jesus.
So those hernias, when they were occurring, I was getting a lot of small bowel obstructions. Well, if you get a small bowel obstruction, like, I mean, God help you. Like, I feel for you because you don't realize, like, there's risk. You know, the bowel could gangrene if it can't come out of the hernia.
Right.
And at that point there, you're going through what I did the first time around all over and over again.
Wow. So what was causing all these hernias?
It was just because the initial incision had cut over the entire abdominal muscle.
So you basically split it right down the middle.
Split it right down the middle. So that was where the real headaches took place, and they went on for about 2 to 2.5 years.
So like a lot of aftershocks.
A lot of aftershocks after that, right?
So a lot of how was it getting back to work and being the earner and stuff? Were you basically like on a part-time basis when you kind of figured it out? Like how did you get through that?
When you got your own business, you're never part-time.
Right.
Your expenses will always stay the same, right? You know, anybody who wants to go in, everybody who goes into real estate, you know, thinking they're going to be a millionaire in 6 months or whatever, you know, the only thing you're going to be in 6 months if you don't have the attitude to work is poor. Like,
well, I think that's
your expenses, your expenses are the same, right?
Yeah.
So between, you know, keeping my expenses up to, you know, try to keep my doors open. I mean, at the end of the day, you know what? Maybe I should have picked up on the signs earlier. Maybe I was trying to keep a sinking ship afloat.
Okay.
And maybe what I should have done at that point is actually, you know, just kind of backed off, kind of, you know, parked my license for a while till I was fully ready to go back to work. But you never really know that. You never really know that, right?
So did something like that happen? Was there a point where you said, "Hey, I gotta"?
No, I didn't, right? So at that one
it.
point, then I just was able to finally get through it.
Okay.
And then we started again, right? So, you know, at that point there, you know, my wife's working. She has a good job too. Yeah. So I mean, thank God, because otherwise we would have been on the streets.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, she was solid throughout this whole thing. Like, I mean, she never once, you know, seemed to hold a grudge against me. Never once blamed me for it. And she's the one who carried us. She really carried us. And, you know, I'd nicknamed her my sugar mom or whatever. She used to get mad. She goes, "You got to stop saying that to people." I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think, you know, I've been married, 22 years.
Wow.
Been together 24. Again, as you know, I had some great ups and I had some fucked up downs.
Yeah.
You know, my wife, the same thing, steady, a rock, good job, you know, Team Haas all the way.
Yep.
We will get it through. There's a couple of times where she had to have a couple conversations with me. "Hey, Kurt, let's fucking go here. This we can't keep doing this."
That's right.
You know, and the hard part about being guys that are self-employed and want to build stuff and do things is, you know, our spouse tends to know us better than we know ourselves.
Of course.
Right? And if I look back at a couple of key times she had suggestions about what I was doing, when I didn't heed a couple of those, things went wrong. And, you know, and at the time, we're so headstrong, right? We think, no, we know what's going. We've had success, so my way's right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we had those conversations with our partners, we didn't like them, right?
No.
And a lot of times we didn't like them because deep down we kind of knew that, fuck, they're probably right.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So, you know, going through these things, and, you know, she's a great girl, great mom, great wife and stuff. But she's earned her fucking stripes.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot. I've always respected her, but there's a shit ton of just mutual respect overall.
For sure.
And we're better for it. You know, we're better, I think, now 22 years later than we were 10 years in.
That's right.
Because we've been through some shit and done some stuff and come on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool. And you know, I always, there was times where I know she wanted to fucking cut my throat in my sleep, and there's times I looked at hip checking her down the stairs and it looked like an accident. I fucking know it, but I think that where there's a lot of mistakes when I see in couples is that they're not willing to fight through that and not understand that shit happens, right? Yeah. And it would happen with anybody else, or maybe even be worse.
That's right.
So it's fighting through that and hanging on to that. So I think,
and sometimes it really is literally fighting.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think when things go quiet is when it's the most dangerous.
Yeah,
that kind
I
of
agree.
Stuff, right?
I agree.
So I think that's super powerful, and it's great to see that. And I think we both know that what you went through and things I went through is we probably wouldn't have come out of them as well without having that partner.
No, you're absolutely
right. You know what I mean? That
kind
of thing. I mean, there's a lot of credit that needs to be paid there. And I think we're responsible for that because we picked the right person. Yeah. That kind of stuff. But at the same token, it's super valuable. And it's when we have these things happen that we realize just how important that is. Yeah. And how it goes beyond just the love. It goes beyond the physical. It goes beyond all these things that someone just gives a fuck about you so much that they're willing to go through this with you. Yep. Do you know what I mean? That's fucking big. Yeah, big That's time. Huge, man. And I think you're very blessed, and I think I'm very blessed to have that. And I wish that on even people I don't like. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So
I agree with that 100%.
4 years to get through it. You come through on the other side. You still kept pounding through the business and stuff. Yep. And that's one thing I find about true entrepreneurs is that's how we're really tested. Yeah. You're an entrepreneur, and whether you're real estate or you're fitness or whatever. When you're an entrepreneur, you're coming up with ideas to make money in whatever field you're in, and you're doing the hustle and grinding through it no matter what. Yeah. I think that's what makes us really good at what we do on the other side of it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You hear the stories all the time. This billionaire, this multimillionaire, they fucking bankrupt 3 or 4 times. They went through all kinds of shit. I think that's just, you've got to walk through those coals and you've got to go through those trials and tribulations to even be, allowed, if you will, to have the success at the other end, to earn that success, right? Yeah. I think that's super important. And it's always good, I think, when it happens to us when we're younger because we have more energy and we have more resources to get through some of that stuff. That's the one thing I find that comes over and over again when I have these discussions with people that have had stuff, went through some crazy shit, came out on the other side, and now are better. Yeah. Better than ever, right? For sure. So having gone through all that, what's some of the biggest changes you've made for yourself, just how you operate business and life, that you say, hey, these are things I'm doing now because of what happened?
So one of the biggest changes I've discovered about myself was, when I was younger, even when we were first married, I could spend money as fast as I made it. Yeah. I was good at putting money. I was good at putting money aside, but you always live like you're indestructible. Yeah. You always live like I will take that upgrade. Like the money tap will always be there, right? Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I mean, like I said, we went through our 6 months of savings, right? And then we started going into the equity of the house. Yeah. And so we took on debt. Yeah. And that debt, man, I'm telling you something, I've never been in debt before. Yeah. Never want to go into debt again. Yeah. And it's taken a long time to get ourselves past that. And, it's frustrating because after the 4 years, I had some really good years. My business grew better and better every single year. And at the end of those years, you're looking at your bank account and your situation, you're going like, fuck, I got nothing left to show for this because that debt that you took on, right?
Well, you went through the negatives and now you're to zero, right? And maybe some positives.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So now at this point here, one of the things I think that, maybe I've grown up a bit, I actually have a lot more respect for money. Money's a great thing. Everybody who tells you, you don't need money to be happy or whatever. Right. Well, you know what? You're right. You don't. But, if you don't have any money too, and you're struggling, you're certainly not happy doing that either, right? There comes a level of good feeling, the way you feel about yourself, your level of accomplishment, being able to provide for your family.
You hear it all the time,
and being able to enjoy some of the nicer things in life, right? And I'm not talking crazy nice things, but just to have, to be able to, if you want to take your family out to a restaurant for dinner, yeah, and your little guy wants to order $100 worth of lobster, you really don't care because that's going to make him happy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'll order $100 of lobster right beside him.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to be going out there and it's a nice feeling to be able to do that, right? So I've definitely got a lot more respect for money.
So you pick and choose those incidences a little more, I'm sure.
That's right. So now you know what? The things that I always used to think I needed, and I now realize there were things that I just wanted.
Yes. Need and want is a very big thing.
It's something that I've learned to quantify a lot better. Yeah. I have a lot more respect for money. So I truly appreciate how hard it is to earn it. And in that as well, I found in my business, one of the biggest things that taught me in the business, as a real estate agent, and it's not just a real estate agent, anybody who's running their own business, I find probably our most valuable commodity that we own today is our time.
Perfect.
It's our time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the one thing we never have enough of, and we'll
never get back.
And we'll never get
that's
back,
right. That's
right? You can't put it in a bank and say, "I'll use it down the road," right?
Yeah.
The person who might be working, for a private industry or a federal government, right? They can bank certain amount of days. So if they work a couple of days extra here, down the road, they can pull that money out of their time bank, and take it at straight time or time and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
We don't get to do that, right? When we lose our time, it's gone. So, you run across people, right? When I run across people, one of the things that I think is going to make me successful in business, and the businesses that I also support and like to go to, the thing that I believe makes them successful is that when you walk in the door to their business, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's, a sporting goods store, whatever the case might be, when the people that are working there actually treat you like they value your business, when they actually provide a level of service that makes you glad that you went there and didn't go shopping on Amazon. To me, it's the level of service that you provide to your client, right? So because I have a lot more value and respect of my time now, if I run across somebody, who's going to be talking to me and, I don't think you guys are worth that much. You charge too much. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't lose any sleep over it. I don't get upset
I'm not here
about
to convince
it.
you.
I'm not here to convince you. You're the one who called me. It's like, okay, so sounds like you don't need my help. Good luck. Go find the discount broker. You know what I mean? And I just walk away from that real easy. So I found in the last few years in my business, there's situations where, even if I was desperate to get a listing,
right,
I would have taken it before and tried to fight a seller down.
We talk about that, in business a lot, where when you first start, you fucking take everything that comes at you. Sure. You have to. You got rent to pay, you got shit to do.
Yeah.
But the key is, when people ask my advice on business, is that you do that, but always with your eye to the point that when I get to this level, I can stop some of that. And then you fight to get to those levels and create a better system so that you can get to those levels so you can start saying no to bad business.
But you know what? Even when I look back at it, the few times that I did take the listings that shouldn't have gone, that I knew,
it cost you. It cost you and everything else. You. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So it cost you. So that stuff just falls back onto your debt. I spent money on video, photography, listing expenses, my time again, that I marketed it and did all that stuff, whatever, for someone who had zero appreciation.
But at the end of the day, I think that all adds up into our vault of knowledge and experience and stuff, right? So, you can go to university for 12 years after high school and learn all this stuff and come out with a $500,000 debt. Or you can go through what you did and I do, and we learn. We still learn. Right?
We still learn every day.
It cost us money. It cost us energy. Cost us emotion and stuff.
100%.
I think one of the things that you said that I really like is that nowadays, because of the internet thing, there is convenience. Don't get me wrong. There's shit I buy on Amazon. But you know what? I buy books and stuff on Amazon because I get tired of going to the fucking bookstore and they don't have it. And they'll order for you and it'll be here in 2 or 3 days.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Next time I get here,
it'll be here in 2 days.
It could be here tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But depending on what I'm buying, I pick and choose. So if I want something where there is service or I need some knowledge behind it, I'd rather go see my local people.
Of course.
And work with them and say, hey, this is what I want to do and this kind of stuff. And, it's the experience. We call it the retail experience, right? I had a guy come in the other day to buy a tub of protein. We have a great protein. We've been selling it for years.
Yeah.
It's our own brand. I love it. He stopped training about 6 months ago with us. He moved to the West End.
Yeah.
But you know what? He was in the neighborhood and he's like, I'm going to go see Kurt and get some protein.
Yeah.
Because when he came in, we were like, hey, man, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. And there's no like, where the fuck you been? You don't train with me anymore. I'm like, dude, you look great. What are you up to? Talk about it and stuff. Like, at the end of the day, I want people to be fitter and healthier. I'm a business. I'd like people to do it with me, but I understand I'm not going to have every client.
Yeah.
I can't have every client.
Your model is not going to fit every person's needs.
And you know what? If he says, Kurt, if I live closer, I never would allow. I said, dude, I totally get it. I said, I'm just happy you came by.
Yeah.
You look great. I appreciate you spending some money with us, and and we had a great conversation. You know what? He fucking left feeling pretty good about stopping in that day. And you know what? I'm going to see him again.
And you felt pretty good too. That this guy actually said, I'm in the East End. I better stop in and see Kurt. That's a great feeling, because if he had a bad experience with you, he'd have been like, fuck this guy. He would never come back into your shop.
And that's the fine line, when we get to a certain point in business and stuff with our craft, right? And it doesn't matter whether we're, podcasting and, real estate and fitness. When we get to a point where we're good at what we're doing and we're comfortable with what we're doing and we also believe on what we're doing, we'll say no to the bad business. Right? We can put our foot down when we have to with a client, right? Because some clients you have to do that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's a lot of great clients out there. And you can get into the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your client base. All those things are true. But at the end of the day, if you just sit there, and I find my biggest peeve anytime I walk into retail is not being acknowledged.
That's right.
So you can walk into my place. I could be on the phone. I could have a client in front of me. You walk in, you'll still get a nod.
Yeah.
Right? And I teach my staff that. You smile and you say hello.
Yeah.
You're sitting down, you stand up.
That's right.
That kind of thing.
That's right.
And it's super important because that's the standard I want in my business, but it's super important because it's diminishing in everywhere else.
There's nothing worse than going into a business where there's some young person sitting behind the counter. They're watching YouTube videos on their phone or whatever. And basically when you walk in, they turn around, they kind of give you that over the shoulder look kind of like, oh, fuck, another customer.
You're interrupting me.
You're interrupting me. You know
and
what
we're
I mean?
old school. We're like, motherfucker, without us, you have no job.
You have no job.
Right?
You have no
that
business.
kind of stuff, right?
That's right.
And that's the hard part overall. But I think that's where we can excel in what we do overall.
100%.
Right? We were talking a bit about that. So now you're doing more residential.
I'm doing a lot more residential, right? Because when I finally got back to work, it was just hard to kind of rebuild my base again that I had on the commercial side of the business.
Right. Because that's what contacts, it's
contacts and stuff like
inventory,
that.
Knowing what's happening.
Knowing what's happening was really one of the big things, right? At one point, I had a lot of the large institutional investors across the country calling me, hey, what do you know what's going on here?
Yeah.
What about this development going on there? Have you heard anything about this? And
You're
I'm not talking.
know.
I wasn't talking just in here in Ottawa. I was talking across the country. I knew a lot of things that was going on, right?
Yeah.
So that was just like being on the beat, on the dime every single day, right? You get away from that for 4 years. I was doing tenant representation at the time when I was sick too. It was just a completely different level of stress. So I got away from that. So when I was finally ready to go back into it, I used to have a lot of people that would call me when I was on the commercial side, ask me to help them buy or sell a home. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what? I think this is the side of the business that I'll be able to ramp up fairly quickly.
Right.
Because I know a lot of people. A lot of people are coming to me. Mm-hmm. Well, surprise, surprise. I finally go into residential. And it's like, do you think anybody called me my first year, right? It was me having to call everybody. I'm like going like, how is this
where
my
are all
luck?
you fuckers that want
where
houses?
did you all go? Did you all buy houses?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But you know what? It was a good first year. Then in my second year, the market actually, took a bad hit here in Ottawa.
What year would that be? Ish. 08, 09, like when that crash kind of happened North America wise?
No, that would have been that probably would have been about 2012, 2013.
There's a bit of correction.
Yeah, we went into the market dropped a lot, right? In prices, so people weren't wanting to sell. It was hard to sell homes. Became a very strong buyer's market, but really there was just not a lot of transactions happening place. Anyways, and every year after that kind of got better, right? You stay in your market, you stay on top of it, and you learn to adjust, right?
We talk about this a lot too, about time in your craft.
The time in your craft. There's nothing worse than running into realtors, and they're like, oh, this market sucks. I can't stand it. I can't do this. It's like, man, just, you know what? The market sucks. So what? Yeah. It
sucks for everybody.
It sucks for everybody. Yeah. And yet in looking at what's going on, just in my industry, they say, 10% of the realtors make 90% of the money. So we've got 3,000 realtors in the city of Ottawa, over 3,000 realtors. Yeah. But you know what? The ones that are active all the time is probably about 300, 350, right? Yeah. And you see those people all the time. Well, you know what? Even in the shittiest of markets, the guys that were at the top of their game all the time were still at the top of their game, pounding out transaction after transaction. So to me, I looked at that and I said, you know what? This is not a market condition. Yeah. This is just a work condition.
Well, it's funny you say, because I get, the brand for Hostile is doing really cool. We've got some cool things happening. I'm blessed. It's like I took everything I learned and putting it together and it's working better, but still day in, day out. There's still systems to follow. And that's our big thing now, systems, and stay on top of things and be consistent.
Yeah.
But the big thing when other gyms, and a lot of gyms contact me now, and hey, Kerry, can I have some advice and stuff? I've coached a couple and stuff. And one of the big things I tell them, I said, look, if you really want to be successful in anything, you've got to stay in it. You've got to weather this stuff, because things are going to come and things are going to go. And then when you're there long enough, people will remember you and they'll come back, right?
That's right.
There's people in Orleans still don't know I'm in Orleans in one way or the other after 20 years, right? Because that's just the way things are. But there's a lot that do know.
That's right.
And things come your way because you've been around long enough. So I get calls, hey, Kurt, here's a deal. This guy, this gym's closing. Here's a bunch of equipment. all those things are happening because it's 25 plus years that I've been at this in one way or the other. And that's the one thing I tell some of these guys and girls too, is that, you know, you just have to also understand it's a marathon. It's not a race.
That's
and you have to be consistent and you have to hedge, right? So, you know, things are working great now, put some money aside, right?
That's right.
Things are working good now, create a system so things can still happen.
That's right.
This time last year, I was in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Big family trip, 12 of us went. I'd never been to Europe. I'd never been on a cruise. I'd never taken 2 weeks off.
Wow.
And so a lot of first times, super excited. The business was in a great place, left it in a great place, has a good team, you know, boots on the ground team is phenomenal. But the one thing I'll say is that when I came back, I noticed after 17 days, momentum and sales had slowed down because I was the prime driver in sales and this initiative and that initiative. So my thing now going forward is how do I systemize that more effectively? So we still have our culture and how we do things, which is really good and getting better. But I also have to make sure that I create a system to keep leads and contacts coming in. And that's one of the big things I try to, when people ask me, I said, that's what you got to do. You got to have things set so that even if you're not there, if I'm doing a podcast with Tom, right, things are still happening. Facebook ads are out, the emails are happening, orientations are happening.
That's right.
Right? Because that's the way to do it. And I'm sure it's the same for your business, right? There's things you need to automate.
It's the same with any business.
When you can automate and systemize certain things and you just do your fucking homework and get better at it, your craft, things happen. But you still always have to be on top of it. But like you said, right, when you lost momentum, right, that rock is standing still. You got to push really fucking hard again until it starts rolling. Once it's rolling, it's easier to keep it going.
That's right.
Right, and it's the same.
It's once it stops.
Absolutely.
You got to start it all over again.
So
right.
The same with your health. Once your health went, you have to reboot and redo all that thing, right? So one of the cool things too, and that's what we got into, is that you've lost a bunch of weight recently as well.
Yeah.
You've gotten fitter. You've done some cool stuff. I know you were at 9 round. You did a bunch of that stuff. You got some good conditioning.
Did a 6-week
you started
challenge
eating
there,
better and stuff like that.
That's right.
And you know, at the end of the day, just in talking to you, I know your health and fitness is more. Much more valuable to you. It's an ongoing process for you and stuff, right? So it's funny because we were having our lunch at Farm Boy eating clean because when I said, hey, I want to eat there, eat clean, you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Ran into a guy who's having similar issues that you did.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that was really noticeable. And you were talking to him and I knew him as well. And you know, we were trying to give him advice and you directly from the issue and me saying, hey, listen, you got to get into walking every day because, I can't do this, I can't do it. And I'm like, dude, just walk every day, get back into it.
Yeah. And
you're like, absolutely. And this is, and, you know, and we're giving him like thousands of dollars worth of advice and experience. And the whole time he was like, yeah, but this and yeah, but that and yeah, but this.
He just didn't want to hear it.
He did not because he just wasn't ready.
And I even actually called him out on it. I said, you know, I go, your worst enemy, I go, is you're in denial. Mm-hmm. I said, look, I was exactly where you were. The guy had an ostomy.
Yeah, he
was
exactly
had his ostomy. Yeah. I said, I was exactly where you were. I said, the biggest regret I had, I said, is that I actually didn't watch what I was eating and I gained weight.
Yep.
And I said, you really need to get a hold of your weight. I said, because if you don't, I go, you're screwed.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, too, you know, he's like, I can't train as heavy as I used to and stuff.
You don't have to do heavy training.
And we said the same thing. He said, yeah, but it's about calories in, calories out.
Just walk. That was it.
And just eat cleaner.
Yeah. So
if you look at his bag of food he had in front of us, half the stuff in there was shit.
Well, I found it funny. I found it funny as he's talking about how he wants to get back into the gym and train. So according to him, he has that hour of his day to go in and train,
but no time to walk.
But he doesn't have an hour. So, you know, here's how I look at it. Here's how I break down. So if you're going to go do an hour at the gym, it's going to take you, say, 20 minutes to drive there, 15 minutes to drive there, right? 10 minutes to get changed. So there's a half hour. Then when you're done, it's going to take you about the same to get back. So that hour at the gym is going to cost you 2 hours, right? If he gets out of his house with a pair of running shoes on, a jacket, you know, and his earbuds in, listening to some music or whatever, and goes for a 45-minute walk, in and out of his house is going to kill about a total of an hour and 15 minutes of his time.
Well, and the one thing I said to him is the same thing. I said, just walk out of your house and turn left for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then come back. Right?
Yeah.
And he's like, all these...
I can't.
And then he was going on about, you know, I'm working part-time and I have a business. And we looked at him and said the same thing. Dude, pick one and focus.
That's right.
And it's not because we're trying to be assholes. We're like, dude, everything you're telling us, we've been through it. And we see it, right? And there's, you know, it's not, he knows me for 20 years. Right off the bat, he knows you went through the same thing. Like, I mean, if these two fucking guys are telling you these stuff, and none of it is like, I need to invest $100,000. It was simple shit. Get up a little earlier and walk, and drop one of the things you're doing and focus on the other, because if you get more sick, you're even more fucked.
That's right.
Right? And at the end of the day, that's the frustrating part, is that we want to help this fucking guy, but after a while, you're like, you know what? And that's where I sit back and go, you know, he's not ready yet, right? Hasn't hit
Yeah.
his bottom in
Yeah.
AA, right? The bottom and stuff. But the same token, it's also cool to sit back and just know, like, all right, motherfucker. You know, we know that you're going to fucking bang your head against the wall for another 6 months or 6 years.
Right.
And we know that we have the solution. And it's kind of cool to have that quiet confidence about it after a while. And just know that, hey, we've been through a lot.
We've been through a lot.
And,
We've been through
and
a
to know
lot.
that we're on the other side of it, you know, we're pretty fucking
Yeah,
cool.
because you know, sometimes when you're talking with your buddies and you shared some advice, but you know you're kind of guessing, and you all know that you're kind of you're trying to figure out, okay, what if it was this, what if it was that?
Problem solving together as opposed to experience.
This particular issue, this was a no-brainer.
Yeah. This was like pull out your fucking book, write these 5 things we told you.
That's right.
And go do them starting today.
Just go do a walk. Watch what you eat. Get rid of the junk food. Watch what you eat and go for a walk.
I think a lot of it goes to how people value what you're doing.
It's cheap. To go for a walk is cheap.
And you can start at any level. If you're tired after 5 minutes, come back.
You know,
like at the end of the day,
this year, you know, when I started doing the challenge, when I did the weight challenge and stuff like that. I mean, I've been struggling with weight on and off for a lot of years, right? But because I'm not as active as I was when I was younger. But one of the things that I've learned as I get older, right? So more recently in the last year, you know, going back to clean eating. Our trip to the grocery store at Costco was just like, you know, we come out of there 10, 15 bags. There was a lot of processed foods, ready to go stuff, right? You know, like, I mean, pizzas, pizza pockets, hot pockets, you name it. Everything that was
144 of each.
100, you know, whatever. And it was just like, you know, my wife works full time. She's on the road during the day. I'm the same thing, right? So our mind had told us, you know, okay, we need something quick and easy, you know, 15 minutes in the oven or whatever, boom, let's get it going, right? Well, you know what? We started doing the clean eating thing, right? And clean eating is nothing fancy. All it means is you're buying fresh vegetables and fresh meat and cooking from scratch.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's faster to fire up the barbecue. The other day, we had people over. I fucking did a bunch of chicken thighs. I did some burgers and I did a whole bunch of stuff. Faster than I could do it in the oven and stuff like that, right?
But you know what's even better about it is now you're you know, so one of the things that, you know, we were told, you know, when I was doing my challenge is they said, you know what? As soon as you come home with your groceries, go do your grocery shopping on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yep.
As soon as you come home, you walk through that door. Before you take one item out of a bag, fire up your oven.
That's right. Start the prep.
Stop the prep. You know, start the prep and get in there. And you know what? Make enough meat to last you, you know, for 3 to 4 or 5 days.
We do it. We talk about doing it Wednesdays and Sundays.
That's it. You know what I mean? So you go and you do that. Now you do that as a couple, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and I actually started enjoying it because you know what? In our crazy fucked up schedule that we have, all of a sudden here we are. We had some time in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And we're laughing. We're joking.
Absolutely.
She's doing her preps. I'm doing my
fucking
preps.
having sex on the counter. The kids walk in. Everyone's traumatized, but you know what? Dinner's fucking ready, guys. Right? Kids just learn about the facts of life. You know? It's fantastic.
But you know where I'm coming from?
Absolutely.
So it was all actually getting organized, right? And then all of a sudden now we're coming home during the week and we've got all the meat ready to go. So now my wife will like put a bunch of green beans and some carrots in a pot, steam them, takes 10 minutes. Yeah. It's like faster than, you know, what we were actually prepping beforehand.
Absolutely.
And you're actually eating clean, you're eating healthy. The next day, lunch is ready. There's no thinking about lunch, right?
Absolutely.
So here's what I noticed. Our groceries got cheaper.
Of course.
The number of bags we carried home from the grocery stores became significantly less. We were in and out of the grocery store quicker, so you saved a lot more time. You gained more time with your wife doing meal preps, right? Later on, you know, we're going to get the kids involved in the meal preps, right? And then the best part is, too, is that because now lunch is ready the next day, I'm not eating out as much.
Listen,
so all of a sudden now, your money...
Yeah.
Your money is going a lot further.
I think what scares people is that first big grocery bill because you're buying chicken and maybe beef or whatever. It's a big jump. But then when you realize that, you know, for the rest of the week I need to pick up some more potatoes and some fucking cauliflower, that's like $4. Do you know what I mean? So when you average your meals out, I think time is the biggest thing. We go back to time again, stuff like that. Yeah. But that's why there's food prep services now. There's all kinds of things. My daughter's 15.
Yeah.
She loves to cook. She's busy with hockey, so she doesn't have time for a part-time job. I pay her $40 a week. I've always got rice ready. I've always got sweet potatoes ready, cut up my broccoli and stuff like that. She can cook 2 of the 3 meats that I like already and stuff. And she actually likes the cooking as well. She makes me these little egg muffin things.
That's amazing.
Right? And you know what? She's also getting a chance to make some money. And it's still cheaper for me than if I hired a food prep company.
100%.
Right? And it helps her. It helps everybody and stuff like that.
And you know what? As she gets older, from the age of 15, she's already in the mindset of doing food prep on a weekly basis.
Absolutely.
So guess what's going to happen now when she's out on her own? Food prep is going to come second nature.
Absolutely.
It's going to become second nature. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, you know, going back to like, you know, when we were talking about my health issues, the thing that started my problems was my eating habits. I was eating red meat 7 days a week, twice a day, and carbs. There was not 1 ounce of vegetable or fiber in there, with the exception of the odd Caesar salad.
Right.
And that ain't enough to help shit.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, and then the other thing is when we eat those foods, and we're not getting enough fiber, enough greens in, that's also a big thing. And when we eat carbs, we're eating way too many carbs.
Way too many.
And then
the worst ones.
And what are we drinking with it, right? That kind of stuff.
Well, and that was the other thing.
So
I was drinking 8 cans of Diet Coke a day.
or booze,
Yeah.
or wine, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So all those things add up and stuff, right? So I tell people all the time, "Oh, it's Thanksgiving, and I'm gonna eat so much food." And I'm like, well, turkey's pretty lean.
Yeah.
And then have a salad, and if you eat that first and you have a little bit of smashed potatoes on the side, you're gonna be okay.
You're doing all right.
But if you fucking, no one gets fat on the turkey. No one gets fat on the vegetables on the table.
Nobody gets fat on the mashed potatoes. If you're actually watching what you're eating most of the time or whatever, then
Like
you have
else.
a holiday or a friend's birthday or whatever, and you go a little overboard one night, it's no big friggin' deal.
But the thing is, right, everyone wants to reward themselves every night. Oh, I deserve this meal. I deserve these 4 beers and stuff like that. I'm like, fuck you. You got up, you came home. You don't deserve anything, right?
Yeah.
You didn't cure anything. You didn't create anything. To me, we're so easy to reward ourselves for doing, everyone's like, beast mode seize the day. You know what? Getting to work at 9 isn't beast mode. Getting to work at 8:45, rocking your shit and getting stuff done. Now you're starting to approach fucking beast mode. The other stuff is just you're starting to become a decent adult.
100%.
Right? And you
100%.
haven't earned all these fucking, I really need a beer tonight and stuff. And I don't say that. People are like, well, because, you're an alcohol, recovering alcoholic. No, fuck. It's just the truth. Is that
How's what I earned to walk tonight? How's what I earned to walk tonight?
Absolutely. How about I do all this, and then, you know what? I'm going to have my cheat meal on Friday night.
Yeah.
Even for me, my cheat meal used to be the big chocolate fucking log, not the small ones, the big fucking log, and then the bag of fucking party mix, and then whatever else I could fucking, I'm into like an insulin diabetic shock, by the time I'm done it. And now that I've focused in the last month or so on whole food eating cleaner, my cheat meal now is a half a tub of whipped cream with blueberries in it. It's a fraction of the calories. And at the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm full. I can't eat another bite and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, big time.
It's just feeling better and eating better. And understand at the end of the day, even the coffee we're having today, it's great coffee, but we put coconut oil in there.
Yeah.
We put coconut oil or butter because the good fats, with a good coffee, blood-brain barrier, the focus, the attention, the fat burning,
never
the
tried that
appetite
before. It was
suppressant.
amazing.
It's phenomenal, right? That kind of thing. These are little things that all add up. One of my next podcasts we're calling it The Power of Creating a Chain. And basically, in a nutshell, it's about, either in breaking a habit or creating a new habit. It's about stringing one day, and then every second day, and then 7 days, and then try to get so that you string along 30 days. Right? It's about creating a chain.
Yeah.
And when you do that, right, we talk about a lot in recovery. We talk a lot about, in training, where people are just starting, we're like, dude, just show up. We'll take care of the rest. We do all the coaching. We make it happen, stuff like that. Just get here, right?
Yeah.
We understand that it's the power of creating momentum in a positive way overall.
And maintaining it.
Well, maintaining it, right?
Yeah.
And understanding that once you start to feel better, right? Tom today feels a fuck ton better than 6 months ago.
For sure.
And then 6 years ago.
And definitely 6 years ago.
And you need to also have that reference point to realize what it was like back then. Because you don't fucking want to go back there again physically, emotionally, financially, right? You don't want any of that shit to happen again.
You're absolutely right.
So it's about learning and it's about understanding. And sometimes, that's the thing that gets me out of bed is knowing that fucking we're at a point where things are getting really cool. I don't want to fall back. I don't want to slip back, right? That kind of thing. And it's so easy to slip back that you need to keep moving forward. What's the one thing, we're going to wrap up. What's the one piece of advice that Tom would give to any guy over 40 looking to reboot himself? What's that one thing, or two if you have two, but what's the one thing based on what's worked for you and what you've seen and what you've been through? What's that one piece that you would say, hey, listen, we're talking to that guy. What's that one thing? If I could just get this guy to understand this, what would it be?
You know what? At 40, we're at an age where we still got a lot of years ahead of us. Mm-hmm. So if things haven't happened the way you want them by 40, even 45, you still got a lot of years ahead of you. I think one of the most important things we can do, maybe our 40s is an age where we should get a little bit more selfish in taking care of ourselves.
Invest in
and
ourselves.
And invest in ourselves, right? And the reason we do that is because when we're not at our best, we're not able to provide our best and deliver our best to our families and the ones that love us and rely on us and need us.
That's awesome.
So I really think my mindset has been more focused on, you know what? And look, I'm just as guilty. I say this. It's a struggle for me every day.
You're not perfect.
I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's, like I said, every little change I've made has been a big difference, right? The way I respect money a lot more, the way I value my time a lot more. I'm not going into the gym as often as I want, right? I'm in the gym sporadically. I might go good for 2 months and then I don't touch it for another month or 2 months. But the whole thing is that entire time, what I really try to do is I really try to make sure that I'm eating properly.
Right.
Because
you're not losing as much ground.
I'm not losing as much ground on the eating, because the whole thing is that, you know what? In the months that I haven't gone to the gym, and I haven't worked out, I haven't gained back any of the weight.
Right.
But if I also drop the eating and change the eating, and that doesn't mean that I don't go out on a Saturday with my buddy and we'll split a pizza.
Yeah.
That can happen. You need to do that too. But
it needs to be an occasional.
For the most part of it, I'm actually, sticking to clean eating with what we're cooking at home. Yeah. And the weight that I've lost hasn't come back.
Good.
So when you pick up and you get back in again, you make a little bit more gains. Well, look, it took me 20 years to put this weight on like this. I can't expect to drop it overnight. So it's a process. It's going to take time.
But I think what's good too, though, is that you're also honest with yourself and saying that, it can easily slip back as well too.
Listen,
so I can make it happen, and yes, it took time, but let's not kid ourselves. I can go the other way pretty fucking fast too.
You're
honest with yourself.
You'll actually go the other way faster
Absolutely.
than what it took you to come back from it.
Absolutely.
So that you know what I mean. So at 40, I think the best advice I could give any guy over 40 is, really take the time to treat yourself with the respect that your self-respect and make yourself a priority in taking care of yourself, because if you don't,
no one else will.
Well, nobody else will because they're busy taking care of themselves. But if you don't take care of yourself, you're not able to give your best to the people that need you.
I fucking totally love that. And it's really about reinvesting in yourself. And, at 40 into our 50s, we're halfway through. I think we're all going to, if we do it well, we can all live to be 100 now. But I want to live quality.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I really like what you said there is that the better you are, the better you are.
Of course.
Everything you touch is better. Yeah. Everyone that you want to influence is better. Everyone you care about is better. It's like we talk about all the time in the airplane when shit's going bad and the oxygen masks fall. The first thing they tell you is put your mask on first
before your child,
before you help someone else.
That's right.
Because if you pass out, you can't fucking help anybody.
You can't help anybody else out, right? So that means you and your child are screwed at that point, right?
That's right.
And in doing all this too, right? The big thing is you got to maintain a very positive environment. You want to get a momentum going. You want to be able to drive yourself, right? Get yourself connected to people that think the same, right?
Your circle of influence.
If you want to be successful, don't talk to a guy who's a loser who doesn't want to be successful, who's sitting at home and is calling in sick every day because he doesn't want to do anything.
Dude, we talk about it all the time.
That's not the friend you want. The friend that you want is the guy that's out there killing it every day, that's making money. Pick his brain. What are you doing? What's happening? How do I do
just
this?
Watch.
Just
watch, be around it. You know what? If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're losing. If you're fucking hanging out with 4 losers, you become the 5th loser.
That's right.
It's so important. Yeah. And it's not easy. One of the things I try working on now, and it's much like how we reconnected, on a deeper thing, is that I'm like, you know what? I want to do this, this, and this. And you know what? I'm going to fucking talk to Tom.
For sure.
Because I
appreciate that.
I knew you, and at the same time, I'm like, if Tom can't help me, I know he's going to point me in the right direction.
Of course.
But at the same token, I know that spending time with Tom will also help him as much as it helps me.
Do you know what I mean? I really appreciate
I think that's super important overall, because at the end of the day, it is that circle of influence, right?
Our lunch ended up going 2 hours the other day, and it seemed like it flew by.
Exactly.
We had so much to talk about. It was great,
Yeah, and it's good. And you know what? It motivates us to want to do better. So the next time we have a conversation, we have more cool shit to talk about.
Yeah.
You don't always want to be the guy like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I didn't get that.
I don't want to see this guy again.
Yeah, when he's gonna ask me about that, and I didn't fucking do it, and then you know what? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the but guy.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, right? It's about just that. It's having a stronger circle of influence and stuff, right?
Get the negative people out of your life. Get them so far away from you. Like a negative person belongs on their own.
Oh, absolutely. They belong with the other negative people.
With the other negative people. Yeah. But you know what? Negative people don't hang out with each other because they can't stand each other. They're too negative for each other.
It's like looking in a mirror, right? So they want to vampire you. They want to suck all your energy out and stuff like that, right?
The best thing you can do is
tell you how lucky you are. You're lucky.
Yeah, you're lucky. Yeah. It was all luck. It was all luck that put me in a hospital.
I'm working from a hospital bed, but I'm fucking lucky.
Aces. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Tom, listen, thanks a lot. How can people reach you if they have questions? Now you're big into the home real estate and stuff like that.
I do. Listen,
you have a goal of 1,000 houses next year. Is that what it is? Did I just put that out there?
Sure.
That kind of thing. Tom's like, I'll take 100.
You know what? It's a great market that we're working in right now. The government has made some changes, but it's a terrific market. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, the best way to reach me is 613-327-4653.
And what's your web address?
My website is tomtheagent.com.
Beautiful. And we'll put that in the show notes and stuff as well. Because no one can spell your last name.
No, I did that on purpose.
Let me see. I'll try it again. Stathopoulos.
Nice job,
Look at
buddy.
me.
There you
I'm
go.
fucking half Greek already.
There you go.
Thanks, brother. Great having you.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
Good. Thanks for having me.